So we will put this on YouTube later on. And since it is past 4:45, Nick, I'm going to ask you to start here in a second. Maybe what I'll do is if the three students, if you wouldn't mind telling Professor Eastman who you are and where you're from, that might be helpful to get us started. Don't be shy. We know Ben is here. Ben, tell Professor Eastman where you're from.
I'm from Janesville, Wisconsin.
Hey, Ben.
How you
Thank
doing?
you, Ben. Cool. Bryson, if you can tell Professor where you're from.
I'm from Monroe, Wisconsin, but go to school in Orfordville.
Okay.
Great. And then Zach.
My name is Zach. I live in Green Bay. I'm excited to go to Ripon, so
Wonderful.
you guys soon.
Great.
Good, good. Professor, I'll turn it over to you then. If you want to tell them about your background with Ripon and
Sure.
kind of dig into what the department looks like.
Great. Well, I'm happy to talk with all of you. Thank you all for coming today, and more generally for your interest in Ripon and educational studies at Ripon. So I am a professor. This is my 4th year here at Ripon College. And I'm a professor of educational studies here. So my background, before I came to Ripon, I was I worked on my PhD at Georgia State in Atlanta. And before that, I was a high school English and German teacher. So I grew up in the Midwest in Southern Illinois. But I come to Ripon from Southern Illinois by way of 4 years in Atlanta. But that's my background, my teaching background. A little bit about our program is that we have, I think, a pretty interesting and unique setup here at Ripon College. So our educational studies majors are essentially elementary education majors. So if you're interested in teaching elementary education, you would be an elementary education major. If you're interested in teaching, if you see yourself teaching more at the high school level, then you would major in whatever your content area is. So for example, I'll use myself as an example. I was a high school English and German teacher. So if I were a Ripon College student, I didn't have the great fortune of being a Ripon College student, but if I were a Ripon College student, what I would do is I would be an English major and an educational studies minor. And if that would prepare me for teaching English, I would have my major as English and my minor as educational studies, which would allow me to take courses, what we call here at educational studies, our foundations sequence, our foundations of education sequence. So all majors and minors take the first sequence of courses, and they're called the foundations courses. And then depending on what you're going to do, it changes. If you're going to teach high school, then there's sort of different courses for that track. If you're going to teach elementary education, there are different courses for that track. If you're going to teach some of those certificates that are K through 12, like art or something like that, there's sort of different setups for that situation. But just that's one thing that that you can kind of keep in mind. If you're interested in teaching high school, then you would be interested in majoring in a certain content area and then minoring in educational studies. And the minor handles everything that you would need to be licensed as a teacher in that given area to teach high school. Right? So I think maybe I'll just pause there and take any questions. Maybe you have more specific questions based on your interests, or maybe you have some general questions about the college that I could be helpful with. But I'll turn it over to you to ask. I can talk about whatever is helpful to you.
I'll give points if you ask questions.
Any takers? The sun is setting here through. I'm getting a nice glow here going.
You have an aura about you.
I know I do. It's usually I'm done teaching by now, so the little sunset at my dining room table is not a problem. But
well, yesterday the sunset was beautiful.
It is lovely, although
out your backyard there, yeah.
Even if it is glowing quite a bit.
Yeah.
What's the difference in like the educational I'm trying to think of a question, but it's like what's the different like education topics, I guess?
Well, so let me explain a little bit about our foundations sequence, right? That's what I usually teach in, and that's what all of the students, whether you're majoring or minoring, would take. So educational studies, you'll start off taking EDU 190, and generally you go from there to 250, 260, and 270. So 190 is what I teach. It's called School and Society. So this is an interesting class. A lot of it's as I said, typically the first class that students take in education. And here we examine all sorts of things. We cover a lot of ground in this class. We cover the history of public education in the United States. We cover different issues and the kind of historical roots of different issues that are facing schools. We look at issues pertaining to that have been around for a while. They just kind of changed shape, whether they're issues pertaining to equity, fairness, different forms of discrimination that have been a real problem in society and subsequently a real problem in schools as well. We also take a look at really imagining different possibilities for what education could be. So not only what it was, not only the present issues, but we really kind of imagine what it could be, right? What are the philosophical, what's the philosophical basis of education, public education in the United States? Does it have a goal? Does it have a mission? Should its mission or goal be different than it currently is or that it has been for the last several decades? We look at different kind of conceptions about what, different kinds of, ways of thinking about school, different even philosophies of thinking about school, that from one philosophy to the next, if we were to organize our schools around this particular philosophy instead of this particular philosophy, we would find that schools are wildly different than they are today, right? So that's something that we do as well in that class. So you look at, as I said, all of these different issues in the present, issues in the past. We also have this kind of imaginative look into the future, or maybe just into different sorts of possibilities that could exist, in the present. I think it's an interesting time to be studying these sorts of things. We're all in the midst of this very, very strange year or so, and in which I think a lot of people are imagining new possibilities with school. A lot of people are wondering what school will look like going forward. There's certainly tremendous people trying to figure out all of the difficulties and issues that we faced over the last year in schooling. So I think we can see the ways in which school, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of profound things to debate. Now that's just in EDU 190. That class is called School and Society. The next class that students typically take, and it's also one that I teach, is EDU 250. So this is called the Psychological Foundations of Education. So what does it even mean to teach and to learn? What are the different theories about how we ought to teach or how students really learn? We cover all sorts of ground there. The practical side, things like how do I design a lesson in a way that's very effective? How do I manage my classroom in a way that is very effective for student learning? We do some of those more practical tips, but we also do a lot of study about what different people have theorized about how people teach and learn. EDU 260 I don't teach, but it's a course on diversity in education. And then EDU 270 is a course also I don't teach. It's called differentiated instruction. So in both of those courses, I think we can look at the ways in which teaching has to take into account difference, whether it's racial and cultural difference, or whether it's difference in abilities or certain challenges and strengths that every student is different, right? Whether we're talking about individual differences from one person to the next, or racial differences, that sort of thing. So I think both of those courses, I could say, are interested in helping teachers to be very reflective about how to most effectively teach all of the different students they encounter on a given day. Anyone else have any other kind of questions or?
Yeah. What kind of certifications can you get at Ripon for like different subject areas?
Sure. So obviously we're in Wisconsin, so we a lot of the certification requirements are set by the state. It's called the DPI, or the Department of Public Instruction, is the state body that licenses teachers here in the state of Wisconsin. Generally, if you're interested in teaching elementary school, the state has recently changed to what they call a K-9 certificate. So that means that you're licensed to teach everything from kindergarten up through grade 9. Now, most people who are interested in elementary education don't want to go anywhere near grade 9. And most of them don't, in fact. The school changed it to have, or I should say the state changed it to have overlapping certification licenses, right? So there's a K-9 for elementary school, and there's 612 for high school. And you can see there's an overlap there. That's to create a sense of flexibility that school districts would have more teachers who are licensed to teach in the middle school area. They could put an elementary school person there if they needed to. They could put a high school person there if they needed to. But most people are typically heading for one end of that spectrum or the other. If you think you're going to teach high school, then you would get licensed in 612, and then whatever your content area is. My previous example was English, me being a high school English teacher. If I were to do that now, in the state of Wisconsin, I would major in English at Ripon College. I would minor in educational studies, and that minor would see that I was licensed in a 612 for English, for teaching English and language arts in that area. So that's generally what most people fall into, right? That's sort of category that most people fall into. Physical education is, I believe, a K through 12 certificate. And you get other areas that are art, like art, for example, which is K through 12 as well. So those are sort of special licenses that are geared toward that particular subject area that might be different from the way that the rest of them are organized. Does that answer your question, Ben?
Yeah, pretty much. So like, let's say I was interested in like teaching science at like
Yeah.
high school. So would I get more like a broad spectrum, like all sciences kind of certification, like biology or chemistry?
That's a great question, because that's in a state of changing here, and that's not here at Ripon College. That's the state of Wisconsin is changing that. Previously, what you would do is you would major in one of the sciences, and this is really kind of still what you do, because they haven't really changed things. They're in the process of redoing the science license, but that has yet to actually, it's not been produced yet. But what you would do right now is that you would major in one of those areas, and you might have to take some coursework in some of the other areas. But I think what they're looking at doing is creating a kind of a broad field a broad field science licensure, right? So you would take a series of courses, just like you said, right? A little bit of chemistry, biology, etc. Earth sciences, those sorts of things, and that would be your license, right? And in that sense, you would be able to teach in any one of those areas. We've done this with social studies, right? So a lot of my students who I advise are seeking what's called a broad field social studies license. And that's really handy, because you take the social studies, there are a lot of different subjects that fall under that heading. Sociology, psychology, American history, world history, economics, psychology, those sorts of things, right, all fall under social studies. And so by taking a coursework in several of those areas, you can license as a broad field social studies license, which means you're licensed to teach any one of those subjects. It makes you an attractive candidate as applying to high school teaching positions, because they can have you to teach several different classes. You're licensed for several different classes. That's a sort of a convenience that I think they're trying to replicate in the science, in the fields of science. And so, that is yet to come, but is, I think, on the near horizon. Other questions?
Professor, maybe you want to talk about where students have done their oh my goodness, their teacher certification, student teaching.
Yeah, that we typically have, most students, I think, end up doing student teaching, in the general area of Ripon College. But we have a lot of other opportunities, although these opportunities have been sort of taken off the table over the past year, but going forward, we hope to return those. So there are local placements where you can do student teaching, and that's what most people do. And those are still continuing on in our current situation. But we have some students, we have agreements or arrangements in a couple of very interesting places. Now, some people are very interested in, a lot of Ripon students come from small towns all over Wisconsin, and they're interested in teaching in those sorts of small towns. And a placement works for that, right? But we have several students who are from larger cities. I mean, one of you is from Janesville, right? Janesville is considerably larger than Ripon. And, we have students from Milwaukee, Madison, Chicago, and they really see themselves teaching in those sorts of environments, right? And so we have a relationship with an organization called the Chicago Center for Urban Life and Culture. And what you would do, students who are interested, we've had several students go through this program. They go down, they join this program, they live on site, and they end up doing their student teaching in Chicago public schools. We also have a relationship with an organization called Seafoot, or the Center for Urban Teaching in Milwaukee. So even though Ripon's a small town and we have a lot of students from small towns, we create these opportunities where you can go and do your student teaching, get that really valuable experience in urban environment, working in urban schools in Milwaukee or Chicago. And that's really going to strengthen your candidacy as a teacher if you're applying for jobs in those areas. People want to know that you're familiar with that kind of environment, that you're familiar in teaching in that kind of context. So if you're interested in that, you can utilize those. We also have we have other opportunities as well. We've had students go teach. We have a relationship with a Native American reservation out in Arizona, and you can go teach on a Native American reservation out there and pursue certification through that program, which is a very interesting opportunity. We've even had in past, although this is not really a possibility with travel restrictions and COVID, but we've even had students do certification in student teaching in other countries, in foreign countries. So we try to create opportunities for you to do student teaching in any context that you would really love to certify in, right? So you're not, you have lots of opportunities for lots of different environments, and your ability to choose one that fits what you think would be best for you.
Is that something you can fit into your 4 years at Ripon, or would student teaching be afterwards? Or
that's a great question, right? So student teaching is very hard, right? In some ways, education has a hurdle or an obstacle to get over that other majors don't necessarily have. Basically, to graduate in time, in education, you have to be planning on 3.5 rather than 4 years, because that last half is certification. Now, that's very hard for a lot of students to do. So what the college does that I think is very, very helpful is many students, they complete all of their degree requirements in 4 years, and they take an added semester to do student teaching. We do a deep discount on tuition. Basically, it covers the cost of paying people to do your student teaching observations and those sorts of things. But for students who need to take extra time, an extra semester to complete their student teaching, there's a deep discount for what they would pay. It's not the cost of an ordinary semester of tuition at Ripon College. So that's something that a lot of students take advantage of. The different programs, like the one in Chicago, because you do room and board there and they have their own thing, there's a sort of different costs, there's separate costs for that, because you're not staying at Ripon College, you're staying elsewhere. So that's a different experience and has different costs, but ones that they always let students know who are interested in the program. But yeah, is that helpful? Answer your question?
Very much. Thank you.
Sure. The sun finally went down, so I'm not just being blinded by through my dining room window. How about what are some of the areas that you're interested in? What would you see yourself teaching?
I have no idea yet. I really want to go into something education, but I just don't know what I want to do or teach yet. That's where I'm kind of.
Do you have, would you kind of gravitate toward one age range or the other? Right?
Yeah,
Sometimes,
I'm kind of want to do that. Like, which like grade level do I want to teach? It's kind of up in the air at the moment.
okay, yeah. Some people have very strong feelings about that. They, elementary school teachers really can't imagine themselves teaching at high school, and high school teachers feel the same way about elementary school. But occasionally we get the people who, really want to teach a certain subject that is really only offered in high school, but they also love working with small children and are great with small children. And so, it's a wide range, lots of different possibilities. Ben or Zach, any thoughts about what you're interested in?
I'm interested in elementary.
Oh, great. I teach a course, the only course that I teach that really, so I teach the foundations, right? So I have a lot of elementary students, elementary education students in those foundations courses. But I teach another course on children's literature that is required for elementary school teaching. So it's a course that I love to teach. So it's a very interesting area. Ben, what about you? What are you looking to do?
So for me, I think at this point, it's kind of a little bit up in the air subject wise. Definitely, I'm thinking of secondary. I want high school or maybe middle school, but I'm
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I ended up teaching high school German. I never had any intention to do that. I was going to teach English, but I had a degree in German, and I was certified to teach German. And my school said, would you be interested in doing this? I thought, sure. So, even whenever you have a strict plan, you find yourself teaching things that you never really thought you would. So that's totally fine to not have figured out exactly your area yet. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I could tell you about the program. I think one of the great things that we do at the program at Ripon College and in our department in particular is that we, we're your advisors, we're your professors. So we get to know you and work with you really well. And I think that's certainly a benefit that we get to know our students and our students get to know us quite well in a way that a lot of other schools, I don't think would really be able to achieve that level of cooperation between professors and students.
Maybe Nick, could you talk about a first semester, what it might look like for a student who may want to look into educational studies, what kinds of options they have? And then I don't know if you teach any Catalyst courses currently. Yeah, maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I teach, we'll start with Catalyst. I don't know how familiar all of you are with Catalyst, but Catalyst is Ripon College's version of general education courses. It's a very unique way that we do general education courses, and it gives you a lot of opportunities to study, to really develop some essential skills and while also studying a lot of different interesting topics. The course I teach is Catalyst 110, which is writing focused. We write lots of different kinds of papers, and we in many colleges you would take something like English 101 or something like that, how to do college writing. But we have Catalyst 110 for that, and I've taught two different topics in this course, right? So students have to take Catalyst 110 and 120 their first year of at Ripon College. 110 is generally geared, it's the college writing course. 120 is about kind of we'll call it numerical or mathematical literacy. So you're working with numbers and data, that sort of thing. So I teach 110, and you have a whole range of 110 sections organized around different topics that different professors have just wanted to develop a course on. And so it's interesting to be examining all of these different topics while building these college writing skills. So I've taught 2 different topics in the past. And my first time I taught Catalyst 110 was we looked at it was like a sort of examination of the effects of technology, specifically the internet, in culture. I've more recently developed a different topic for 110, and it's called leisure in the liberal arts. So it looks at the tradition of the liberal arts. Ripon College is a liberal arts college. It looks at the tradition of the liberal arts and really examines this idea of a classical understanding, a philosophical understanding of what leisure is for, what our leisure time is for, and how that relates to our education. So it's a really fun and interesting class. I've had fun teaching both of those classes, and students have responded well to both of those different classes. But in terms of education, you likely your first semester maybe take one of those Catalyst courses. You would take probably EDU 190, the course School and Society that I already mentioned to you. And that would really kind of start off those, a student who's interested in education would probably take both of those courses as 2 of your probably 4 courses that you would take your first semester. The other 2 courses you could take, depending on what you're interested in, a course from your subject area that you're interested in. I think, Ben, you were the one who said that you were interested in the sciences, so maybe you take an intro to chemistry course or something like that alongside that. But those are sort of the typical way that we would build an incoming student's schedule, right? What are your Catalyst courses? What Catalyst courses are you interested in? And then what are your department courses, your kind of early department courses? And a lot of students, all of you are interested in education, and I encourage you to pursue education, of course. But there are a number of students who they don't quite have it figured out exactly what they want to do. So when I do advising for first-year students, incoming students, that is, we select a Catalyst course. If they're interested in education, we get them in 190. If they're thinking about double majoring in another thing, or if they are thinking about a major in another area, get them into one of those intro courses in that area. And then I always ask students, if we're looking for what is that 4th class going to be, what is something that you're really thinking about that you're interested in? Maybe something, or if you have an idea, maybe I'd like to do this, I'm not so sure yet. Well, you have to just kind of take one of those intro level courses and see if it's something that you really enjoy. I also encourage students to just kind of branch out. I think what makes Ripon College really great, and what makes the Catalyst curriculum really great, is that it creates lots of opportunities for flexibility. I think you should always have a plan or an idea in mind, but at Ripon, I think you should always be willing to just take something that you don't have a plan for, but just are really delighted or interested in. You want to get involved in theater. You want to take an art class. It doesn't mean you have to be a theater major or an art major. Maybe you just want to make some art or be involved in a production or something. I think you have the opportunity to do that. And so I'm always encouraging students to have a plan and to kind of develop that plan, but also look for interesting new ways of branching out and doing things that you wouldn't otherwise have a chance to do. I think that's a great thing that Ripon is a high participating school, right? We like students to get involved in things. And I think that's what really makes for a very rich education. So I always try to kind of encourage students to pursue those interests, right? Be working on your plan, but also pursue those interests alongside those things.
Well put.
I have a question, actually.
Great.
So you said we have to take English for the Catalyst for 110. What is like the next step after taking English 101?
Yeah, so you would take, as I said, the first year is writing. You have one class 110, which is writing focus, or one class 120, which is numerical literacy. It's kind of data focused, math focused. So you'll take one, and it doesn't matter which one you take first. You can take 120 in the fall and 110 in the spring, or vice versa. Then you go on to the after your first year, right? You only take 2 Catalyst courses your first year. You take 2 Catalyst courses your second year, and then you end Catalyst. The culmination of Catalyst is in a third year course, which is it's called an Applied Innovation Seminar. And so there are only 5 courses you have to take, right? 2 your first year, 2 your second year, and the third kind of capstone project that you work on in groups in your third year. So that's there's a lot that's covered in those 5 courses, but it's 5 courses. Whereas when I was an undergraduate student, I had to take, I couldn't even remember exactly all the courses, but my general education courses were much more extensive. I had to take courses in a lot of different areas. Having a slim sort of 5-course general education program at Ripon College is what frees you up, like I said, with the flexibility to start pursuing those other courses, to take those interests, because there's time in your schedule to take those interests, to take, a fencing course if you want to learn how to fence, right? I always think of David Scott, or one of our math professors, teaches fencing courses, right? So I've never fenced in my life. And if I were Ripon College, I would be like, I'm going to get in that fencing course and try to learn about how to fence for absolutely no reason at all, other than it looks really, really interesting.
There's
So,
a half marathon course. I mean,
yeah, if you're into
it's related to psychology, but
yeah,
right.
Right. If you're interested in exercise or distance running, we've got this. Here we are in beautiful Ripon. I mean, I wouldn't really want to go running a half marathon in negative 10 degrees or whatever we've been experiencing. But we've got the prairie with all of these trails. It's just a beautiful area to go out and be active in. And so some of the courses really encourage that and are really kind of designed around that activity there. So I think there's that's what I was saying, 2 courses in your first year, 2 courses in Catalyst in your second year, and then your third year seminar, and that's it.
What I would point out to all of you is just, I think it was a year ago, in the summertime when the students came to do orientation, a student of mine from the Sheboygan area was looking at theater and education, and her class schedule the first semester was literally a Catalyst. She had an educational studies class. I think she might have had 2 theater classes, and then she was going to be involved in choir, and that rounded out to whatever the 16, 18 credits. But it was like, to me, a dreamy sort of schedule to start off college with. This is what I want to do. I took geology back in my day, and things that had no relevance. I was not a sciencey student, and it made me dislike college. And I think we changed that up, where there are classes that you can take, and like Professor said, take something that's just out there that you might want to, a history class or English or, art, whatever it might be, just because you might enjoy it. And those Catalyst classes too, remember that you'll see, if you do decide to enroll in the summer, now we'll have orientation. It'll be virtual, I can tell you that much. But there will be probably a dozen courses between the 110 and 120, and you'll have a chance to kind of rank them, of which ones sound interesting to you, and then you'll be placed in one. And like Nick said, you might be placed in a 110 the first semester, and then you'll take 120 the second semester. But those courses change over the time too. As Professor said, a different course he might be teaching in a year or 2 or something. So professors are thinking about new creative classes and topics, and there's classes on weird Wisconsin. There's classes on like picking, like artifacts. There's classes on is the world going to hell? I mean, these are actual topics and classes that we offer in the Catalyst. So they're not your, so to speak, humdrum classes that you might take at another school. Anything final from you gentlemen to ask myself or Professor before we end this particular session?
I know we got to go. I don't want to take up too much more time. I don't know who this is exactly a question for, but I've heard of the Teach grant. Is that something that I could go for at Ripon?
What have you heard of I'm not sure is this, explain what you know of this grant, and then I'll see if we're thinking about the same thing.
So this is like a federal thing that if you follow the path, you can, I think it's like $4,000 a year off your.
Is it a loan, what do you call it? Forgiveness of loans if you teach a certain area. Isn't that what it is? Does that sound familiar, Nick or Ben? I mean, I feel like I've heard something too.
Yeah, I can say the name escapes me, but we do have kind of like loan or debt forgiveness programs based on especially centered around like rural education. So this is something that that I think is a real incentive in education in particular. These agreements often have to do with, in order to be eligible, you agree to teach for a certain number of years in a rural school or a low-income school or something like that. I think those things do exist, and in Wisconsin, I was just sort of Googling. There's a Teach Wisconsin, and there are grants, right? Is this what you're talking about, Ben? That there's a Teach Wisconsin grants?
Like you pick a subject area where there's less teachers, and then you go to a lower income school, and you basically that loan is not actually a loan if you follow the steps properly.
I think, yeah, the details of these programs escape me, but I know that I think that they do exist. I could try to find out more of those. Really, our director of teacher education, Jean Rigdon, she sort of knows, she's much more connected to DPI and some of those different grants that come through for that. I can look into that, and we could get you some information about that. I do think there is such a program that our students have utilized in the past, but the precise details of it escape me at the moment.
What I'll do is make sure that you, Professor, have all these gentlemen's emails, and that
Good.
way you could follow up with them. Okay,
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
good.
Any other final questions or things that I could do to be helpful?
Well, I want to say thank you, Professor, first for doing this for us. We
Sure.
appreciate it. And then the three of you students, I'm happy that you had a chance to connect and take some time to learn more. I hope that you've gotten some good information out of it. And Bryson and Ben, I hope that this helps further your decision-making process, that we would love to see you on campus in the fall. But let me know if you have any questions. As I said, I'll send Professor your email so he has that as well. And again, thanks for attending. I'm going to hang on. We have a next session coming on that is going to focus on the fine arts. If anybody wishes to stay on, this is the same Zoom link. We have a professor coming in from the music department shortly, but otherwise you may all leave the meeting. And again, thank you and have a great night.
Great. I would just say thank you to all of you for your interest and for your enthusiasm. I do hope to see you maybe in my 190 class in the fall, or even possibly I do summer advising. Who knows? Maybe I could help you pick your classes over the summer, and that's a really exciting time. So thank you all for your interest, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. So I'll get your email, and hopefully we'll be in touch. Okay.
Thank you for the information.
Sure. My pleasure.
Yeah, I actually kind of decided on this a while ago, but I haven't but I'm actually probably going to be committed to Ripon actually.
Great.
Good.
Wonderful to hear.
Yeah,
I was just I'm pressuring my mom, who's in another room at the moment, I'm frustrated. It's like, I need to get this enrollment fee
Yeah.
paid.
We're waiting for you, Bryson. Well, that's
I
awesome
know.
news. We would love to have you on campus. So
Well, it was great to meet you, Bryson.
Nice, thank you. Nice to meet you too.
and Bryce, if you need something, you feel free to reach out to me as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I will.
Bye.
But
From
Oh,
That's okay. Go
gets
ahead.
me every time. You probably figured out from doing admissions events that we get like a little preview. And so my preview was she's from Toma and she sings, which of course made me extremely excited. I guess before Ty gets in here, is it okay if Dr. Shuka and I introduce ourselves?
Yes, go for it. Mhm.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Dr. Brian. I teach in the music department. I'm the head of the voice area. So I teach applied voice lessons and voice class and vocal techniques and pedagogy and diction courses. But I also teach some of our musicology courses, so like music history and ethnomusicology type courses and ecomusicology. All of that's sort of my realm. And I also do the vocal coaching for our musicals when we do those. So I'll let Dr. Shuka introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shuka. I am Director of Bands and Director of Music Ed. I obviously teach band and right now jazz band, although next year that's actually going to shift. Do you play an instrument or
No.
vocal? Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Don't get me wrong. I love our vocalists too. I was going to say, if you're interested next semester or next fall, I'll be switching from jazz band to an athletic band program that's just starting. And we'll have somebody else teaching jazz band. I also teach, obviously, the music ed classes and a little bit of theory. All of us have to teach one semester of theory because there's not enough of us to go around to just kind of specialize. What else do I teach? Music technology, conducting.
I
So,
should
yeah.
add, we're not the only music faculty. We just happen to be the ones that were really excited to meet with prospective students tonight. We have a variety of our other teaching artists who teach various applied lessons. We also we have an amazing interim choir director this year. Actually, I just realized choir rehearsal is probably getting out right about now, and we're doing a search this spring for a full-time tenure track choir director. So choir is very much on all of our minds these days. And we also have a phenomenal professor of keyboard studies with piano, and so there's a very passionate team of us down in the Rodman Center for the Arts. So Madeline, believe me, we can give you all of the information all day, every day. Exciting for you. You have the two most chatty professors at the school in this Zoom.
Not kidding.
But can I just hear a little bit about you? I know you're interested in music. What else do you do?
I mean, my life has been basically music. I did show choir all years, except for this year because we didn't really have a show choir this year. But I love reading and writing and stuff like that. I'm really into like English. I golf and theater. I'm a huge musical person. So
My heart. Are you looking at I should preface this with, you do not have to have a major in mind yet. You are a senior in high school. Have you thought at all about prospective majors, minors in college?
I've debated doing like a minor in theater or something like that because I love music so much. But probably majoring in some kind of psychology or social science kind of idea.
This is definitely doable. We have a lot of the students in both the theater and music departments that combine interests, as I'm sure you have heard from your mom and also our amazing admissions team. I've got got several students actually doing the music or music education with a psychology minor. I know Jakob's doing that, and one of my first year music education students is doing that as well. And
Also have,
also,
I was gonna say, double majors with at least one music ed, double major with theater.
yes,
So that is quite doable. I've got other students. I know that there's I have another theater major in the band. He's not doing any music major or minor as far as I know. No, he's not. But it's just kind of demonstrating that there's lots of people that get involved in both departments, and so obviously it's in our best interest to cooperate very well. In other words, people are in shows, and we know we're going to miss them for rehearsals when they're in shows. The theater department knows we have a concert; they're going to miss rehearsal. You know, so we look out for each other and kind of give and take for the important stuff. Give to the other person's important stuff and take when it's our turn to be important, and so forth.
well, and I think we're particularly lucky, and I know you're already decided on Ripon, but so you don't need me to sell you on anything. But I will say we are particularly fortunate at Ripon that our music and theater departments get along very well, and we enjoy sharing students. It's one of the things that for me sets the school apart from some other institutions. I think there's a really healthy partnership, and consequently it ends up having really fun. Actually, I've just been emailing Dr. Shuka. I should actually forward you this email. We've been emailing about musical possibilities for next year. In fact, also the theater department is undergoing a search this spring as well. They had one of the directors in the department is retiring this spring. So nothing bad, amazing for him, very sad for us. But the school has always seen and celebrated the arts community on campus. And so we've been approved to go ahead and do a search for a theater director for next year. So we're just all banting about programming ideas. But yes, I can't give details, which is really hard for me. But I will say that we are looking at really cool musical theater options for next year. That's my vague about that.
And of course, this is where we pop in and say, and of course, you know about all the famous show business personalities that went to Ripon, right?
Francis Lee McCain.
Yeah, I know a few of them. Yeah.
Well, the three that we keep throwing out there are Harrison Ford, Al Jarreau,
Spencer Tracy.
and Spencer Tracy, right? Yeah. Al Jarreau, actually, we have funds from Al Jarreau for scholarships that he bequeathed to the university. Don't know if he gave them or bequeathed them. Either way,
Yes,
they
his son had spoken at commencement maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've been sure. Is that just after he passed?
it was
away?
after he passed. Yeah,
right.
yeah, maybe like that spring after. I'm not remembering exactly. Time flies.
Yeah.
I can't always keep track of what year it is.
So I
No
should
doubt.
ask Madeline, what all do you know already? Just so we're not telling you things. This is actually kind of nice that we get just us and you. What do you already know about music and theater activities at Ripon? And I can gauge what we can tell you.
Yeah, not much. When I visited, they kind of gave like a brief, like little talk about it or whatever, and I looked around and saw it, but I don't really know much of what you do, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Shuka, I'll let you start out. I keep on butting in.
Well, that's okay, sure. So, what I can tell you is that since you're talking about singing and not playing an instrument, I'll just focus on those aspects and not bore you with all of the bands and so forth. So we have 2 choirs on campus, 4 credit choirs at least. There are other groups that can form and do it at different occasions. But the 2 4 credit choirs are the Choral Union, and that meets on Thursday nights. And that is, I have to say normally, because right now things aren't normal with pandemic, but normally that's a campus community choir. And Dr. Bryan, correct me if I'm wrong, about 60 to 70.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the larger group. And so consequently, when we do big masterworks, like I don't know if in choir at school you've done like excerpts from Handel's Messiah with the Hallelujah Chorus or anything, but when we do those works, the big masterworks with choir plus the full orchestra, sorry, because of the late hour, I'm at home and my fiance is pantomiming the entirety of Handel's Messiah in the kitchen. Charming. But yeah, when we do those big works, that's with choral union, in part because, and again, you probably already know this from your mom, but yeah, as Dr. Shuka said, choral union is the campus community choir. Those campus community relationships are particularly important to us. And I think they're important at every small liberal arts college, but particularly at Ripon. Like, we're not called Smith College in Ripon, Wisconsin. We're called Ripon College. The relationships between the school and the community are amazing. And we have really incredible community members who have been involved with our music program and the campus community groups like Choral Union for some of them decades.
Yes.
Which is kind of amazing.
Yep.
And
They're
so that's Choral Union, the larger choir.
and just to pop in real quick, they rehearse the same time as orchestra, so that when they do the masterworks, they get to rehearse together with the orchestra and the choir all at once. And then Dr. Bryan's going to tell you all about chamber singers, I'm guessing.
I am. Chamber Singers is our auditioned touring choir. It varies in number from year to year, but typically about 20 to 24 singers. Even though it is the auditioned choir, you do not have to be declared as a music major or minor to be eligible to be placed in there. But that's the choir that will frequently do some of the more complexly harmonized pieces, and a lot of acapella works. And like I said, every spring, with the exception of this past spring, because it was scheduled for March 13th departure, that's the choir that does a little regional tour around Wisconsin and some of the neighboring states. And that choir admittedly does also have a slightly more full rehearsal schedule, just due to the slightly larger repertoire load that comes with it. So those are the existing credited choirs. I do have actually some of my first year students who've been chatting with me, interested in starting up an a cappella group. So once we can safely schedule extra gatherings, that's something that a few of our students are looking at organizing at the student level, because when you have a residential campus, you can organize these student-led projects. For other singing opportunities, so like I said, I teach voice lessons, so I program kind of a variety of things. Last spring, COVID stopped this. I feel like that's the punchline to every story lately. We were all set to have an opera scenes program in April that was going to be different short scenes from different operas that are set in Seville. So admittedly, it was a lot of Mozart. And we also, though, along with, like I said, I have my opera interest, but the partnerships with the theater program have included last year's production of The Fantastics, and then also this past fall, the theater department's regular play, because we sort of do a musical year, non-musical year. This year, even though it wasn't officially a musical year, we still snuck in. The fall play was Spoon River Anthology. So it was sort of short vignettes, and it was produced outdoors. So it was honestly a really beautiful experience. But there were a variety of folk songs scattered throughout the show. So we had two of the people in the cast that played guitar that I went ahead and coached them. They accompanied singers in the cast singing these various folk songs that sort of aligned with the story. Dr. Shuka actually had a wind band arrangement and basically played a fanfare for the whole production.
Well, it was yeah, Percy Granger wrote a piece called Spoon River, actually based on the play, or loosely based on the play anyway. And so when I found out the theater department was doing Spoon River and they were doing it outside, and I really wanted to actually perform in front of people, said, all right, let's see if we can make Spoon River work with the, I think it was 19 players that we have without the community. And yeah, it flew pretty well. So we did that. I was going to mention really quickly too that one of the things that's really cool is that choral union, jazz ensemble, and the wind ensemble, and I don't think orchestra anymore, but up until recently, until the faculty member retired, all have faculty members as community members in the group. So so you might stand next to a faculty member who is a history professor during the day, and then Thursday night is an alto next to, well, I don't know if you're an alto, but you get the picture, standing next to you in the choir, which is a pretty cool thing, I think. At first it might be kind of like, oh, I was just in your class and got a C on your test or something, but then you realize it's kind of like a different place, and they're not, glaring at you over the music all rehearsal or something. It's completely, a different setting. And I know for sure that the students thoroughly enjoy having Triple G, one of the for world language they call it. I think there's a department, but he teaches mostly Spanish and in the languages department. He plays tenor sax in the jazz band, and the students really like having him around.
I
I
should
didn't
mention,
realize that you guys called him Triple G.
Oh yeah, the students taught me that.
I know, I did that, and someone said, "Who?" I'm like, and it was, I think, a former student, but I was surprised.
Oh yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
Jeff Guerva something. I don't
Jeff
know how to
Guevara
say
Gear.
it.
Yep.
There you
Jeff
go.
with a
there
G.
you go.
Yeah. So Triple G.
I just realized, Madeline, you've got Dr. Shuka. I mean, we are very music centric, but to speak to some of your interests in theater, Spoon River is kind of a nice little segue into that. So like I said, typically we do sort of a musical year, non-musical year. Straight plays, that is plays song without music, do happen every year. So for example, last year we did Fantastics in the fall, and then in the spring it was the theater put on Comedy of Errors, which was wildly funny. I sat behind one of the English professors who has like the best laugh. And so it was really nice for me, because if there was like anything Shakespearean that went over my head, I could take the hint from her that it was definitely like re-analyze the line. And there's also there are the senior directed shows as well in one acts at the end of the year, as a part of frequently that'll be part of the capstone projects for seniors majoring or minoring in theater. This year for theater shows, like I said, in the fall, there was Spoon River Anthology, which was outdoors, and then there was Molly Sweeney, which I should have read the synopsis beforehand to realize how heart-wrenching that show would be.
It's not lighthearted.
No, I think there must have been like a Michigan. There was some sports game going on that weekend. It was broadcast. So Dan, my fiance, was out here watching whatever the sporting event was, and I decided to go into the back room to watch Molly Sweeney. I came out and I just had like eye makeup streaked down my face. It was beautifully, beautifully acted, wonderfully staged, and really just impressive that they could make that happen given all the safety needs. So it's really cool. This spring, similarly, we will have two primary shows. There will be some short Chekhov plays, as well as Almost Maine. There we go. And those, keep your eye on the Ripon website because they will be broadcast. So yeah, definitely check those out because it's been impressive seeing what our theater department has been doing lately. And again, with the spring does come the variety of senior directing projects. Or like last year, one of my fourth year voice students, who's a music minor, she's also an incredibly talented costume designer. In fact, she is currently in her first year of her master's program for costume design. But her senior capstone was actually designing all of the costumes for Fantastics. She was not able to design all the costumes for Comedy of Errors because she was also one of the principal actors in it. But it's kind of cool seeing what different students do with these skill sets once they leave school. And selfishly, as an instructor, it's exciting seeing the next steps. Which also means I get to ask you because, I know when I was 17, 18, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Do you have any thoughts? You mentioned interest in social sciences. Do you have any ideas what you want to do after you get your bachelor's?
I will probably go and get a master's degree. I'm looking either towards something in like a community health worker or like a social worker. So one of those, or like my kind of like plan B is to be like a school counselor kind of a thing.
I thought you were going to say your plan B was to be a musician. I don't know. Wonderful. So what pushed you in that direction? I mean, that's an amazing career path. What has you interested in that?
Sounds cliche, but I really like helping people. I love kids. I like kids a lot. So I know that. And then I just have such an interest in psychology and sociology and stuff like that. Just that interests me.
We should talk about how cool the music education major is when combined with the psychology minor. Now I'm really wishing that I had one of my third year voice students in here because that's what he's doing. No, I think that sounds like a great career path. And honestly, those are, I don't care if it's cliche, those are good reasons to go that route. Better than, I want to be a social worker for the glory.
yeah, for the money and the glory. Yeah.
No, I think
that's why we got into teaching music, is for the money and the glory, right?
No, I think that's fabulous. And I think, again, whether you decide to combine things with theater, music, or if you don't, honestly, like I'm over here and I basically just stop all of our, especially like our really strong students, I'll regularly stop them in the hallway and be like, so have you declared the music minor yet? How about that? This is how we just got one of our amazing tuba players and singers, and he's also a thespian, he's in theater as well, to declare the music education major this week. But gentle pressure aside, again, you don't have to be declared as a major or minor to take part in any of the music or theater activities. None of us in casting decisions or in placement decisions for choirs, we do not ever give preference based on whether someone is a major or minor or a non-major minor. And that's part of the institution's identity, honestly, with the liberal arts, is we actually feel very strongly about having that openness.
And on a social level, the students, there's definitely a music, family down here of students. I say down here because if you took the tour, you know that Rodman is at the bottom of the hill, right? So, but we have our crew, and they don't care whether you're a major or minor. I think the majors,
They'll try to recruit you.
kind of like just be more involved because they're here more often. But no, but there's none of the, like, oh well, the music majors hang out and they don't allow music minors or anything, or non-major minors. Not at all. If that's what they want to that's the people they want to hang out with, and that's who they hang out with. That's and they have a lot of fun. We have a little, you probably saw the lounge in the music area.
Mhm.
And you saw that somebody had the brilliant idea. I wish I knew whose idea this was. This is great. They put the blackboard paint on the back of the lockers so they can decorate that as they see fit. Well, within, the boundaries of good taste, or at least not awful taste.
They'll occasionally put up quotes that have happened in classroom lectures that just don't always quite make sense out of context. So sometimes we might adjust those ones for the sake of context.
Right.
But I should ask, what have you been up to lately for music and for theater, for that matter? We've been talking about like the various modifications that we've been making, but what the heck is going on for you?
Well, Toma is very much a sports school. So not a lot. We can't sing in class. So I didn't get to sing at all in school this year, which kind of sucked. I did a fall play.
What play was it?
My English teacher wrote it, so it was like an original that she wrote. Yeah, it was about like aliens and Area 51. So
this is amazing. Did you play
yeah.
the alien?
Yeah, I played like a crazy old lady. So
All right.
yeah.
I love that. I play that every day.
But besides that, our show choir we didn't get to do this year. Whatever, the Wisconsin Show Choir Association or whatever decided not to do any competitions, so we didn't really have one. And then they're trying to do a musical of some sort, but I honestly don't really have my hopes up for that because of how little they're putting effort into trying to do something. So I'm waiting for college to come around so I can do some stuff.
It's so hard this year to make any performing arts. I mean, oh my gosh, in athletics too, to make things happen. I will say our I know Dr. Shuko was alluding to, like, in the typical here. So like, for example, with our college community ensembles this year, we had to close off the ensembles to off-campus members just for safety. We all of our college community groups this year have been just students in the group. Most of the ensemble directors have still also been doing virtual projects and workshops with the community members that are in the ensembles. But after most of us spent our entire summers sitting in virtual workshops where we learned about aerosols, there were just so many measures we had to take. Or I haven't taught a lesson in my office in some time. I am teaching lessons in person, but both the student and I are masked, and we're in Demmer, the big recital hall you would have walked through. Basically, they stand near the edge of the stage singing out to the house, and I'm playing piano behind them so that anything that could escape past the masks goes in opposite directions. So it's all of that is to say, I'm so sorry you haven't gotten to have a normal senior year arts experience. That's
So
hard.
Madeline, when show choir was up and running, did you guys go to the Lodi Invitational?
I don't think so. Okay. I don't remember that.
Okay. That was the last K-12 district I taught in.
Okay.
I remember that was a big deal. It was SCI, Show Choir Invitational. every year, and I got roped into directing the pit band for that day, like teaching them all the music that morning, playing it that night in the concert, and it was they got something like 8 show choirs from around the state to come every year. So just kind of wondering, since Toma's not that far away, that maybe if that was one of the ones that you went to, but.
Yeah. No, I don't think that was one of them. We went to, I'm trying to think of what like the closest one to Ripon would have been. Like we didn't really go that direction, I guess. We went like we went to like Iowa and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
Before, so I actually just started at Ripon last year. So
Both
did
of us.
Dr. Shuka. There were 2 retirements in the music department, and we both came at the same time. But before I was at Ripon, I taught at a small Dutch Reform college in Pella, Iowa. If you have Pella windows in your house, that's where they're from. But right by Des Moines. But we particularly focused on musical theater styles with our students, and also show choir, getting comfortable choreographing show choir for our music education students, because Iowa has this like amazingly rich tradition of show choir, which you obviously discovered coming down there. That's awesome. I should ask. So you've done show choir. Do you sing in the regular like concert choir at school as well?
Yeah. Select.
Or
I'm in select choir, which is our like audition show or audition choir or whatever. So that's what I am in.
Have you done solo ensemble in the past?
I have, yes.
Okay, tell me all the things that you've sung.
Let me think.
I know you're like, okay, pull out my resume.
I've sang since 8th grade, so there's quite a few. I believe my own little corner from Cinderella.
Oh, it's on Disney Plus now too.
The most recent one I did was I Just Want to Be a Star from Nonsense. So, which one of my favorites ever. Trying to think, and then obviously I've sang this year, or what was my classical this year?
Oh, are you doing the virtual solo ensemble this year?
Yeah, that's the only way we could do it. So
yeah, I'm judging those. What do you think for it? It's okay if I run into your video. I'm not allowed to judge it since you and I've met.
I did "O Thou That Tellest Good Tidings to Zion."
Oh, I'm working on that with one of our juniors right now. Awesome.
And then I did the one from Nonsense. So
awesome. Oh my gosh, the "Oh Thou That Tellest," that's hard to do with a recorded accompaniment. Or do you have someone at home who's playing for you?
No, I had to have it recorded and did it
like that. Time. Oh wow. How is it feeling in the voice?
It's pretty. It was good. It was fine.
Good. Yeah, I mean it's a big piece.
Yeah.
Dr. Shuka, you know that one it's from part 1 of Messiah.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I thought you know the Nonsense one. I was saying, nope, that one I don't know. But yeah, Messiah, I like most people that had to go through music ed. Well, besides studying, when I was in undergrad, we did that for what we called Oratorio Society, and since it's an oratorio, that makes sense. So yes, so we sang the complete Messiah all the way through.
All several hours of it.
Yep. And then we did. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. You don't know. You don't need to hear about my undergraduate choir days.
I love hearing about your choir days, actually. No, I was just going to say Messiah is actually a good example. Then you totally knew what I was talking about when I mentioned Messiah earlier, because you're doing "Oh Thou." So like last spring, I keep on starting all my stories with like, we were all set to do Messiah with Choral Union and the college community orchestra. It was scheduled for May. And then what's the punchline to every story?
COVID.
That's what happened here too.
So, okay, walk me through the heartbreaking story of everything you had to miss out on last spring.
Well, I missed being on Auntie Ellen or Auntie L or in Oklahoma. So
No, NTM is
Auntie
T.
M,
Eller, Eller.
NTM is Wizard of Oz.
right? Auntie Eller then.
Eller?
Aunt Eller.
Oh,
It was.
show.
Yeah, we didn't get to do it, so that was kind of disappointing.
That's really sad. I
Mhm.
think that might be one of the more sad things that's come up so far. Sorry.
We also
Jill, I'm gonna
missed
go
her.
back.
She has a beautiful red dress she didn't get to wear to prom.
No, I didn't. No, prom I missed. I didn't get to finish out any of my choirs, our big like performances at the end of the year we get to do. We did luckily get to like just like the day before we went into quarantine, we did our final show choir concert. So that was like the best thing to come out of that was the day before we went into quarantine and got shut down for forever. We did our choir or our show choir performance. So
Our chamber singers was supposed to leave for the annual spring tour on Friday, March 13th, and I was actually going to be going along on the tour, even though I'm not the choir director, but I was going to be doing some voice workshops with high school students at the schools we were visiting. And then, we heard that the administration had declared like there was just, the school couldn't take a chance with student safety and community members' safety too. And so we couldn't go on the tour. And so like our last parting thing together was we all had, I'd love to say it was a beautiful artistic experience. Now we had this amazing dinner of barbecue food from a local place in Ripon, but it was so amazing because the community of students in that group is just so attached. So being able to have that just like final gathering before we all locked ourselves up for weeks, months, was really just a very sweet memory. Now I want barbecue. So Madeline, do you have any other questions for Dr. Shuko or me, or Jill for that matter, about music and theater at Ripon? God knows we'd like to talk about it.
What's the first step in getting involved in the
yeah, as a freshman, what should I get involved in, I guess?
Are you wondering about courses or like things to audition for?
Yeah, both. Yeah.
Okay. So for things to audition for or do placement hearings for, at the very beginning of the year, we are very aggressive with advertising. So you will honestly see posters all over the place, and you'll also likely get a letter either in your orientation packet, or it might be emailed from the choir director regarding when placement hearings are occurring. And the placement hearing process, just so you can kind of have a heads up of like what's going to be going on with that, usually involves the choir director, the director of choral activities will be there. I may be there as well, just because I like to hear the new voices coming in. You'll vocalize a little bit. They'll just kind of take you up and hear the range a little bit. They might have you do a little bit of sight singing if it's something that you've done with your high school choral program in the past. If it isn't, no one's going to be putting you on the spot. But we just like getting a general idea where comfort levels are there. So choir placement hearings will occur, and that's typically like a day or two before the first day of classes. We sort of schedule it around move-in. Theater will have auditions within the first 2 weeks of school typically. And I know I'm using the words typically, normally a lot because it can fluctuate, but again, everything will be widely advertised. So yes, the auditions and placement hearings will happen within those first like 2 weeks on campus, because we do typically start rehearsals immediately, like the first day of classes. For classes to enroll in, a part of that sort of depends on prospective major minor interests, but honestly, as a first semester student, you don't have to have anything declared yet. for sure you'll enroll in a Catalyst course, and you've heard about Catalyst curriculum.
Yeah, yeah.
So I will not bore you by telling you things you already know. Save for Catalyst is awesome because students don't have to take gen eds that they might not be interested in. So you'll definitely take either Catalyst 110 or 120, and you'll discuss that with your academic advisor. Because you've expressed interest in theater and music, there's a good chance you may have either Dr. Shuka or me or potentially John Delzell in the theater department. You may well end up having one of us for an advisor. Doesn't always work that way, but frequently if a student has shared an interest, try to pair that up. So yes, four of your credits will automatically be a Catalyst course. And then I often recommend if a student is thinking about like a music major, music minor, taking foundations of music in that first semester. Intro to acting, I don't remember what semester that is offered.
Yeah, I don't either.
Off the top of my head,
I was
sorry.
I was just thinking like Soc 110 or 101,
Yes,
whichever,
or-
intro to
yeah.
sociology.
Yeah.
If you're interested
The
in
psych-
sociology and psychology, that would be a good one to get in right
Yes.
away.
I can't remember now if it's Psych 112, but intro to
I think it is Psych 112 is the other intro to psych. Yep.
Numbers spinning around, but it's called Introduction to Psychology. Have you already, I'm sorry, I should have asked this. Have you already taken any psych courses or AP psych or anything?
I've taken AP Psych, and I'm in like my school doesn't offer like any other like psychology classes, so I'm in like an online, it's called RVA, sociology class right now.
Okay.
Awesome. Are you planning on taking the AP exam for psych?
No.
No, that's totally cool. On the bright side, that will have you very well equipped when it comes to
Yes.
going through that course material, because as you probably learned from AP Psych, an introduction to psychology goes very quickly. So having that foundation under you is quite helpful. So yeah, I would recommend probably taking one of those intro courses. Conveniently, our website has these sort of little like one sheets set up for the different major areas. The one for music is several years old and features various like retired faculty, but the course listings are accurate. And so if you even just go on, it's going to sound like a terrible thing to say, but it's true. If you just Google Ripon College psychology major, like the first thing that comes up is this explanation of the major, and then you can click view sample course schedule, and it'll take you to this one sheet that like runs through, these are the courses you need to complete this major, and it even gives like a recommended 4-year plan for finishing everything up in time. So I've actually found that really handy when I'm advising students, just so I can make sure I'm giving them the right directions.
Speaking of finishing up in time, I hate to run, but I have a rehearsal starting. Would have started a minute ago, but we shifted it back 10 minutes for a couple. Well, no, it wasn't just this. There's a student town hall tonight, so I had to shift my my rehearsal around a little bit. But it's starting in 9 minutes now, so I need to bow out. Madeline, it was really nice to meet you, and best of luck in the ending out your senior year of high school. I know it's going to be weird, but hey, it'll be good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still a lot of good things going on, and I will leave you in the very capable hands of Dr. Brian, and I will look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thank you for your time.
Yep,
Happy
thank you.
rehearsal.
Thanks,
Good night.
Toby. Thank you.
But yes, so I'm giving a crash course advising, but yes, I would recommend intro to psych in your first semester. It's nice, especially if you're considering majoring in the area, or intro to Soc 110 or Psych 112 would be good for you in the first semester. I know we're definitely getting up on time, and I feel like we all should eat at some point.
Well, you have the one that's cooking for you.
I'm smelling lentils, and it smells so good. But also Catalyst. I typically offer a group voice class in the fall. If you're interested in doing some singing, If you want to, if you're considering doing a music minor, like I said, you can always look at taking Foundations of Music, which is sort of it's sort of our very first course in the music theory sequence. A lot of students look at the music minor requirements and suddenly realize like, oh, this is a very doable minor to pair with other things. So yeah, you've got options for sure. We should all eat. Do you have any other questions for me? And I can always, through Jill, we can get each other's emails for sure to correspond further.
I think, yeah, you answered a lot of questions that I had, so I'm pretty good. Yeah.
Good. And I will definitely send your information, Madeline, to Aaron. Sorry, my dog's hungry too. And so you have that information to contact each other, but I'm glad you guys had a chance to connect. It always makes things nice. You'll know each other when you come to campus in the fall. And it was good to see you all, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Yeah.
calling, Jill. Madeline, have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.